good. It's a triple-double for Bella Earl.
Goes matched up with a speedy guard. Great screen, spin move, layup, he missed it. Williamson fights for the board. His putback is good.
What's up, everybody? It is another episode of the Straight Outta Whack podcast here on this Wednesday afternoon. Labor Day weekend. You know, you get backed up on days. I went to the dentist this morning thinking I had a dentist appointment, and only for them to tell me that it's tomorrow. So I get the dreadful thought of waking up and going to the dentist tomorrow. But what I don't have to dread is this next guest on the Straight Outta Whack podcast episode. As you know, it is Seattle U men's basketball preview week. And with us, we have he's in he's beginning his third year as full head coach, fourth year as basically the head coach of the Seattle U men's basketball team, Chris Victor. Chris, I don't know how to introduce that fourth year because you were the interim head coach the first year, but now I don't know, maybe we should just say fourth year head coach.
Yeah, let's go with fourth. Yeah, sounds good to me.
How does it feel to, let's talk about this kind of a bittersweet thing that's going on here. Seattle U last year in the WAC, they got the invitation to join the West Coast Conference. Maybe talk about the run and the fun that it's been, in the Western Athletic Conference, and then how excited you are to be in the WCC, back in the WCC, basically where I think a lot of people, including myself, thought Seattle U belonged the entire time.
Yeah. Really exciting time for our university. You're right. The WCC has always been, ever since Seattle U came back to Division I athletics, I think the WCC was always the vision in mind where we would end up. But the WAC has been awesome. Such a good conference, especially on the men's basketball side. It's been a great conference, and so many great universities and programs and head coaches that we've competed against. It's a bittersweet moment because, leaving the WAC is tough. It's been so good to us, and it's been such a great conference. But this is an exciting time for Seattle University as a whole, not just the men's basketball program or athletics, but the university and the whole community is excited about becoming a member of the WCC.
Speaking of the whole community, you got to throw out a first pitch at a Seattle Mariners game this summer. So talk to us about that. I mean, are you a baseball guy? Do you play catch with your kids? Or was it just, there's a little rust that you had to shake off there?
Yeah, and it was awesome. I played baseball through high school. I grew up in the Bay Area, right by San Francisco. So I'm a Giants fan, and I've been a Giants fan since I was a kid. I was at the '89 World Series earthquake game. I've been to World Series games in San Francisco. I've always been a big baseball fan, and it was really cool honor to throw out the first pitch. And I felt good. And I played baseball in high school. I don't throw very often, but felt good about it. But when you get on the field and you see the height of the mound, and you're like, oh no, this is a little different than throwing in the backyard. But I went well. I got it over the plate. I'm calling it a strike. And it was a really cool experience to be out there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I got to ask, Giants fan, Barry Bonds deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Okay. And that 1989, the earthquake game, I mean, what, if you can remember back then, I mean, what was?
Yeah. I mean, I was 7, and my mom and I were in the upper deck at Candlestick Park. And, what I vividly remember is you don't when the earthquake started, everyone wasn't sure it was an earthquake. Maybe it's people running in the aisles or behind the deal. The game was about to start. And then it just kept intensifying, and everyone's like, oh, this is the real deal. And I remember as a 7-year-old looking, because Candlestick had the light poles on the outside of the stadium. Right. And I remember them swaying back and forth. And as a 7-year-old thinking those were about to collapse into the park. And then just the kind of the mad dash out of the stadium for that game. Remember all the personnel from the team rushing on the field and not knowing really what to do in that moment. But I never thought going to my first World Series game would be as memorable as it was, but maybe for the wrong reasons.
I shouldn't laugh, but yeah, like it's just crazy. But I mean, how cool was it to be there? I mean, the World Series that year was the Giants and the Oakland A's. I mean,
Yeah.
like that whole area was a buzz with just the craziness of that series and the great players on those teams. I mean, you had Will Clark for the Giants. I mean, I think that was Dave Stewart and
Yep.
what's the closer's name for the A's that year? Dennis Eckersley was there. I mean, they had some. Wow, that was yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun time. It was sad for Giants fans. I remember shedding some tears as a young fan after I think they got swept that series, but yeah, it was cool. That's the Giants have given us some good memories over the years for sure.
Good times. I will admit I'm a Cubs fan, so when the Cubs finally broke the Giants like even year streak in 2016,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. So let's talk about this Seattle U basketball program. You lose a couple of guys that meant so much to that program in the last couple of years, especially. Well, I don't want to single out one of them because both Alex Schumacher, Cam Tyson, and even Brant Chatfield, who's transferred out. I mean, Cam Tyson comes home, to play at Seattle U and kind of raise the bar there. Alex Schumacher takes over for Darian Trammell and steps into that role as best as anybody probably could have.
Yeah.
And Branton just added that size next to Kobe, and you've had guys over the past 3 years. We could say Meku Denu, Darian Trammell, Riley Grigsby, just these guys that you get that stay in the program for 2-3 years, and in the transfer portal era, we don't see a lot of that. So, can you talk about maybe how that helps your recruiting with these guys that stick around and like they know the program, they know the expectation, and they know the culture that you've built up?
Yeah, it's been huge for us, no doubt about it. I mean, having some continuity in your roster in the locker room has been one of our strengths over the last few years. And you mentioned, Cam Tyson had a great 2 years here and had an opportunity to leave and decided to stay for his third year because, he was committed to continuing to raise the bar, like you had mentioned in this program, being from the city. And he's such obviously an amazing basketball player, but for him to be committed here for 3 years and stick through it's how special he is as a person too. Him for 3, you got Brandon Chatfield, who came over as a walk-on from WSU and really developed with us. And I thought he had an amazing 2 years, like you talked about. So yeah, I mean, having people in the program, Vasia Panza's coming back. Victor Reykjavik is coming back. Kobe will be back for his 5th year. We have Paris Dawson will be back for his 3rd year. We have guys that have really enjoyed their experience here, and having them stay for multiple years, it adds to the culture, and it gives you a better chance. Those guys that can teach. We have a lot of new players this year, and it'll be important for those guys that come back to really help teach and set the tone for who we're going to be as a team this season.
Yeah, I mean, having that continuity, does that play? I mean, 3 20+ win seasons since you became the interim head coach or the head coach. We're just going to go with head coach. Let's just drop the But 3 20-win seasons, finishing at or near the top of the WAC. I mean, does that continuity play into that success? And is it sustainable in today's era of college basketball with the transfer portal? So, I mean, you guys are an example that it is, but I just wanted to things are changing, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And we do our best to continue how we built it. Having players stay here multiple years has always been something that we've valued, and having players in your program grow into the basketball players they become their junior and senior or graduate years has been something that's been important to our success. And last year's team that we had was extremely experienced, and not only experienced in the basketball court, but experienced with together, being on the court and then getting reps together. So I think that was huge for us last year. I think we'll continue to try and build this program that way with players that whether they transfer in as a sophomore or they come in as a freshman, are here for multiple years. And I think when you have guys 2 or 3 or 4 years here, that's when you really get to see the growth and the jump within their game, but then also just adds to the culture that you're building and to have that continuity.
Do you, when you go into an off season, or maybe not even off season, do you look at guys that are playing at other schools that are from the Seattle Seattle area, I guess you could say Pacific Northwest, and try once they hit maybe I don't even know how it works, but I mean you got Cam Tyson to come back, John Christophilus came back from Creighton, he's a Seattle guy, and you've got a couple newcomers this year that are Seattle guys. Like, is that in the back of your mind when you go recruiting that we want to bring the hometown kids back? Like we want to. I mean, Cam Tyson took pride in putting Seattle U on the map or helping put Seattle U on the map.
Yep.
You want guys like that, right? That are here to play for their hometown or I don't know. I've noticed that.
Yeah. I think it's unique to every recruit. I mean, some guys like Cam, like John, that's important to them. It's important to be able to play in front of their family, to be able to represent Seattle, play in their hometown. That's something that excites them. It's something that they value. And those are the guys that we would love to bring back and play for Seattle if they don't end up here out of high school the first time around. It's not for everybody. We've recruited some guys that are from Seattle that weren't too excited about coming back home and decided to go somewhere else. But yeah, that will always be something that we do. This city has such a rich basketball culture. And there's so many talented high school players in this area. And we're not going to be able to get them all out of high school. And if there's opportunity for some to come back home that are excited about coming to compete with us at Seattle, we'll keep recruiting those guys to come back home. And we're familiar with them all because, they're all part of this city growing up, and we've seen them in high school for years. They're familiar with our program and our staff. And, when it comes to that point when the portal hits and some of those guys decide to jump in and they're the ones that we're familiar with already from recruiting them, throughout their high school years, that relationship that's already been built helps kind of speed up the process. And we'll continue to recruit high school kids in Seattle and transfers that want to come back home.
Is it fun to have some of those? Maybe it's changed, with the transfer portal stuff, but maybe some of those battles with, UW or Wazoo or even Gonzaga for guys maybe that want to come back home to play. Like a lot of the guys, I shouldn't say a lot. There's probably quite a few guys you guys recruit the same guys and, that battle. Is that true or is it different now with the transfer portal?
Yeah, I mean, we're not in many recruiting battles with UW or Gonzaga at this point, but that's where we want to get to. We want to be able to get to that level where that's the player that we are recruiting. But I think it'll be special for those guys growing up in this city, playing UW every year, playing Gonzaga a couple times every year, playing Portland, WCC every year. I think that'll be something, Washington State's in the conference for our first year in the WCC. So having those battles, it'll mean something to them. It'll mean something to our fan base too. I know, the people in Seattle and the Redhawk family is excited about being able to have them on the schedule every season. And we play UW every year. We played Washington State a couple times. It'll be our first time playing Gonzaga. We've had Portland on the schedule, but those rivalries, they date back a long time. Talking about Portland and UW, so having them every year is going to be special.
Okay, I got to ask. Before I ask my other question I had on my mind, how do you determine what games are going to be at Climate Pledge, considering who you get to host this year? I mean, like you said, Gonzaga. St. Mary's. Well, that's next year. Excuse me. That's next year, I should say. Yeah. But when you get to that point, how do you determine whether they're going to be at the Redhawk Center or whether they're going to be at Climate Pledge?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not really involved in those conversations as much. We would play as many games as we can at Climate Pledge Arena. I don't know if we're going to be able to get Gonzaga to commit to playing in the Redhawk Center.
Sure.
But some games we might be having to play at CPA just with the amount of following and fanfare. But being able to play in that arena has been great, and I'm thinking we'll get a few more dates when we jump over to the WCC.
Okay, and here's the last, because I know you said you're not involved with it, but I know you guys have to go across town to UW.
Yep.
Why is that game not played at Climate Pledge Arena every year? Is it just you want that home game, or like, I don't know, will they ever come to the Redhawk Center?
No, we play them at it was old. We played them at Key Arena back in the day before Climate Pledge was built. And our last game that we hosted against UW that in that series was at CPA at Climate Pledge. So yeah, they'll when it's a UW home game, we'll play on campus. But when it's our home game, we'll play it at CPA. And that was a heck of a game last year. It was a great crowd at CPA. Great energy in the building, a double overtime thriller. One that we wish we would have been on the other side of, but it was just a great college basketball game for Seattle. And for Seattle U to be able to host that level of the game at CPA was cool.
I remember watching that. I think I was in West Texas that Saturday night. I had just got done with the I think it was the ACU UTEP game, and I was staying at a follower's ranch, and he had the game on, and we were watching the overtime.
Oh, cool.
Just kind of moving our bodies, trying to wiggle a shot to go down, or like, yeah. But yeah, that was a great basketball game, and like I said, great for the city of Seattle to see that competition and that high level of play, right?
Yeah.
So you guys got a new weight room, fitness center, athletic center, I guess. Like, talk about maybe game changing for the Seattle U Redhawks.
Yeah, beautiful. The Wright Family Performance Center opened a couple weeks ago. Just a state-of-the-art facility, designed by our current strength and performance coach. And it's something that you continue to try and elevate the facilities, continue to try and elevate the opportunity you're giving to your student athletes. And this is something that we're really proud of. So our guys have been in there for a few weeks now. And it's an exciting time. We made the commitment to the university has made a commitment to athletics, and it shows. And this is something that we're excited about, and it's great to be open and get in there and get some work in. And it's a beautiful room.
It's awesome. That's awesome. We've talked about the UW game. You get to go to Duke this year, Cameron Indoor Stadium. I believe it's part of an MTE, if I remember right.
Yep, you're right.
Campus game.
Yep.
The history of the Blue Devils. You know the history of Cameron Indoor Stadium. Like, how excited are you to? I don't want to say be in awe of it, but just be there and be in that moment and have your guys be able to compete against the best.
Yeah, we're going to practice in there the day before, I hope. So we'll get kind of I will definitely be in awe. I haven't been there. I haven't been in that. I haven't played, coached a game. I haven't been a fan in that building. So yeah, I'm excited. Growing up as a basketball fan, anyone can say you have that's got to be Cameron Indoor is at least top 2, top 3, if not the number 1 place that you would love to go watch a game as a fan. So to be able to have our team compete and to coach in that building is going to be special. So, yeah, we're excited about it. They're always really good. I think this year might even be one of their best teams they've had in a while. So it'll be fun. And I know a lot of our guys are obviously going to be excited, staff, and see how many Redhawk fans we can be wearing red in that game and kind of help limit the crazies a little bit.
Have you talked to Kyle Keller, SFA head coach, maybe about what to do to like mitigate the crazies and to like win a ball game? Since
I haven't called Kyle yet, but I definitely will be reaching out. I'll definitely be one of the few guys to leave that building with a win. So I know Kyle will have some good stories for me and some good advice for sure.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Awesome experience for the guys, and pull off the upset. I mean, that's a game changer right there for the season. So
yep.
Anything's possible in college basketball. Let's just put it that way.
No doubt.
I'm speaking with Kobe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Kobe Williamson, who's been at Seattle U for like 10 years, it seems like. He had 2 dramatic finishes. The first one was one of them was against CBU, and then there was the one against Utah Tech too, where I still watch the videos. I think I put them side by side in a tweet after they happened that It was basically Alex Schumacher off the wing to the hole, and Kobe was right there to clean up the offensive. Like, is there anything that I should any maybe crazy story that I need to ask him about that to get a good laugh out of him?
You just got to ask me about the celebrations after. I mean, there's a couple, the Utah Tech. We have a couple pictures and video from the Utah Tech that are just hilarious with the celebration from him and his teammates. CBU the same way. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy how similar those two plays are with Shu driving on both of them, wasn't able to finish the layup. Both pretty good looks, and two of Kobe's biggest offensive rebounds he's had since he's been in Seattle. So. Yeah, those are cool. Those are fun games. Our CBU series always seems to come down to a last-second shot. It was even at home. Shu had a last-second putback at the buzzer, and the Utah Tech game, such a tough place to win a game and tough place to play, and for Kobe to make that play at the end. So I mean, those are great memories for him. I'm sure he'd love to. I'm sure he'd love to talk to him about it. And I just love this. Some pictures of the celebration that we're going to have up in the office and in the building for a while.
Yeah, I think one of them went viral. I think he was like laying back with it. I can't even remember the one. I think one went viral. Yeah. So, he's been around. How nice is it to have a guy that's been around for as long as he has the experience, that plays at a high level regardless, that he basically tells everybody where they need to be on the floor as that guy in the paint that, is a rim protector. And people look at him and may not think he's athletic, but he moves really. His basketball IQ is off the chart, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's been great. Kobe started a lot of games when he was a freshman here. Stepping on a campus from Australia, it's, anyone making the transition from high school basketball to their first freshman year of college that's always a tough transition. And he was able to step in and start right away. And you're right. We've had some pretty good defenses the last few years, and he's the anchor of them. His intelligence and basketball IQ and instincts are special. And he's the all-time shot block leader in Seattle U history. And his communication on that end is great. And even seeing him this summer, it was really fun just letting him. You can almost be a coach on the floor at this point. He knows everything that's going on in our program. He knows what I'm going to tell him before I even say it. And his leadership this year especially will be huge for us. So having him back, it's awesome. It's going to be a sad senior night for a lot of people in this program this year when he's gone, but we're going to enjoy his last one. That's for sure.
What do you think you'll miss most about him?
He's just, I'm just going to miss him having him around. The way he walks in the office, the energy he brings every day, the positivity, the light that he shines, is the main thing that we're going to miss. He's an unbelievable dude. And all his basketball stuff aside, obviously we're going to miss him on the court, but having him in the program and having him around, and it's going to be different. It's going to be a change, and I think that's the thing I'll miss the most.
You won't miss the mustache.
Yeah, the mullet and the mustache will definitely live on forever here. We'll have to create maybe get a wig or a mustache that we can put on someone else when he leaves. But the mustache he's gone through some changes too. He's been whenever he goes home in the summer for a month, I never know what he's going to come back with. So sometimes it's the mustache, sometimes the hair is long. Sometimes he shaves it. So he might be. We'll see what his look is this year.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Any of your newcomers stuck out since they stepped on campus? So, I know a lot of coaches say, well, all of them have, but, I'm just curious your thoughts on any of the newcomers you have. I mean, you brought in a 6'8" forward, Matthew Alexander Moncrief who played at Oklahoma State and Georgia, Ray Adams, 6'8" freshman from the Seattle area. Couple of guards, like any of them that have stuck out to you so far that you've really liked what you've seen? Maybe you didn't expect necessarily that when you were recruiting him.
Yeah, I think we started the conversation talking about who we're losing. Right, we lose Cam Tyson. One of the guys we didn't mention was Seyi Reiley, who's also graduated and leaving. And those guys, their leadership last year was a big part of our success. Talking about Cam and Shea. And I think one of the things that I was excited about this summer was Matthew Alexander Moncrief from Georgia. He's a vet, man. He's played at a high level of college basketball for 4 years. Great competitor, great character. And I really think that what he brings on the leadership side is going to be huge for us. He's a great player, and his athleticism and ability to play is going to obviously help us too. But I think his leadership and his voice in the locker room and on the court is going to be huge. So, when you're recruiting someone, it's hard to get that. You don't really know exactly how that's going to happen from the portal, right? You can watch film, you can talk to them. Maybe you've seen them in person when they were younger in high school, but until you're around them every day and practicing on the court, you don't really know that leadership. But he's really emerging already as one of the guys that voice is going to be important. So that's been great to see. And then our guards, Malik Garrington, Auburn kid, Seattle area, played at Idaho State a couple of years. And Deshaun and Braden, all the guards that we brought in all had good summers. So, this with all these new pieces, we have 6 new scholarship players, and 2 of them just arrived a couple of weeks ago. A couple of international players that just arrived recently. So, trying to figure out how these guys fit in and how our team's going to come together will be important for us. Last year we had so many returners. Kind of knew what we had going into it. Christophilus was added, but for the most part, we kind of knew what we had, and we had a lot of how everyone's going to fit together. So this year's a little different because we lost some big pieces. We have a lot of new guys in. So how this team gels and how those newcomers kind of fit into the system and fit into the program and really carve their roles out will be big.
I want to finish up with this. I know the goal ultimately was to go to the NCAA tournament, right? And it fell a little bit short in the WAC semifinals, but how maybe special for you was it to be able to go win 4 games in the CBI, knock off High Point in the championship, which is a good High Point, like a very good High Point team, and to see Seyi Reiley, Alex Schumacher, Cam Tyson go out as a champions like that? What was that like for you as a head coach when you've been with these guys for so long?
Yeah. Losing to Grand Canyon in a tournament, it's tough. You're right. Like, our goal was to go to the NCAA tournament. And we didn't make it. We didn't beat Grand Canyon. They were better than us at that game in Vegas. And, after that game's over, you get the opportunity to play again. And I kind of just talked to those seniors, the guys you mentioned, like, hey, we have opportunity to go back and play in the CBI. It's up to you. If you want to keep playing, we're going to go out there and compete like you have all season. Let's go do it. I didn't want them to be half in, half to go play because it was there, but those guys wanted to play. Those guys wanted to keep it rolling. And going into those tournaments, you never know what to expect. I've coached teams in the CBI that those guys didn't really want to be there, and it didn't end up being the experience that you were hoping for. But those guys, that team last year was really tight, and they had a chance to continue to play and finish their season on a win, and it was important to them. So to go out there and get rolling a little bit and win a couple games and then think, okay, we had a chance to win this thing and be one of the very few teams in the country that ends your season on a win, but also ends the career of these seniors on a win and a championship. So it was cool. And it was something that I'm just really proud of Cam to be able to go out with a championship, and Schumacher and Seyi Reiley, and those guys just to finish their careers winning a championship at Seattle was awesome. So yeah, it was great. Daytona Beach, we're on the beach for a week. We're playing 4 games. You get it's a great setup. They do a great job, and you get to finish your season with a win.
It's awesome. All right, one last question. What trip will you not miss the most when you go to the WCC next season?
Will I not miss the most?
Yeah.
Well, the travel becomes a little bit easier for us, definitely.
Sure.
The trip that we won't miss the most. This is a tough question. I'm going to go probably one of the Texas trips.
Okay.
The connecting flights, the travel, those are tough trips from Seattle. So I'll probably pick one of those.
I figured as much. I kind of get the feeling that that's the mantra is like, as long as we stay out of Texas, we're good. And, but yeah, it's, I mean, conference realignment. And I, like I said to begin with, Seattle U belongs in the WCC. Like there's no brainer that that's been the case. So, and I think it says a lot. I don't know if it is actually true, but the report from Matt Norlander when he broke the news was that the WCC presidents only allowed GCU in if Seattle U was voted in as well. So if Seattle U wasn't in, may not be a whole different thing, but they got it right with Seattle U going to WCC. Anyways, final year in the WAC. Chris Victor, Seattle U head coach, appreciate the time and, just the success over the last 3 years. I think it's going to continue this year. And, that Duke trip just seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It'll be, we're excited about the year, last year in the WAC, and hopefully, you're right, we can continue to win some games and see if we can push this year to win a championship and get to that tournament.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and make sure you subscribe to the WAC Hoops Nation YouTube channel, and we'll see you on the next episode of Straight Outta WAC Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow WAC Hoops Nation on all your favorite social media platforms.